York's very own muscle building coaches, Anthony Bevilacqua and Pete Kacharian, proudly present to you New York Muscle Radio.
What's up, guys? New York Muscle Radio, episode number 169. How to turn fat into muscle and vice versa. It's your host, Anthony Bevilacqua, alongside my co-host, Big Pete Kacharian. And guys, if you're a new listener, welcome to the best muscle building, fat burning, get strong podcast ever. We're going to teach you guys how to get the best body you've ever had, ever. So today is going to be a fun topic. Again, we've heard this before, turning fat into muscle and muscle into fat. I've heard so many people talk about this. So we're going to show you guys if that's true, if you can do it, and how to do it if you can do it. Again, guys, for being a listener, whether you're a new listener or an old loyal listener, head on over to newyorkmuscleradio.com/getjacked, JAKKED, and pick up your free 12-week training program. It's our gift to you for being a loyal listener. And don't forget to leave a 5-star review on iTunes as it helps this podcast grow. Big guy, what's going on, man? How you doing?
You know what this topic reminds me of? It reminds me of that saying, which I heard so many times, a muscle weighs more than fat. You ever heard that before?
Yeah, and then when people, they do bad on their diet and they weigh in and they're like, yeah, I'm probably gaining muscle.
Yeah, well, you'll get that too. Or if their weight doesn't change and they just assume, okay, maybe I'm putting on muscle and burning fat. And, you know, we're gonna get into all that because there's so many misconceptions about weight gain and weight loss, whether it is muscle or it is fat. And a lot of times it's not the weight that you want to be putting on. You know, people always see the scale go up and they're trying to put on muscle and they say, great, but it could be fat. And vice versa. People could be losing weight on the scale if that's their goal, but it could be muscle as well instead of body fat. So it's important. It's important to know the difference.
There's definitely a big difference between losing weight on the scale and actually losing body fat. And not many people know that, actually.
Yeah, because, and you know, we tell our clients this all the time that you know, the scale is just one marker for progress, and you can't go only by the scale. You know, the scale could tell you a lot, but it's not going to tell you everything. So just because the weight is moving in one direction doesn't mean you're accomplishing what you're trying to do. You know, people say they want to lose weight. Typically, that means they want to lose body fat. Just because the weight comes off the scale doesn't mean that it's pure body fat. And then, like I said before, people trying to put muscle on, that would mean scale weight's got to go up. But just because that scale's moving forward, and this is probably a more common issue, people are putting on weight but not muscle.
Yeah, and that's why it's so hard. You can't chase the scale when you're trying to gain weight because that's not good. You'll just get fat as fuck.
Yeah, I think everybody's guilty of that.
Before.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think everybody's guilty of that at one point, but it's a matter of you know, basically checking yourself before it gets too out of hand. You know,
check yourself before you wreck yourself, fool.
It's true.
That was from a movie, I think. I don't know what movie that was from. What's the matter, man? You don't have your normal spunk. You good?
Yeah, I'm good, man.
You want to take a break already, man? What's the matter?
Yeah, let's go to commercial break, guys. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Yeah, Pete needs to freshen up. Your hair's growing back, man. I see the full hawk's coming back, full throttle there.
Yeah, maybe that's it. The hair's not back in fully, so you know, I'm still waiting for that to grow in before I get my spunk back.
Well, actually, speaking of throttle, we actually saw this weekend. So I've been all by myself this weekend as my wife, my mom, my sister, my mother-in-law, my daughter are all in Disney, so I have the house all to myself. So I feel like a college guy again, man. Single, home, you know, by myself. And I was able to actually go to the movies, and we saw Fast and the Furious. And I want to mention something about that. It was actually good. I was surprised because the storyline looked retarded in the commercial, but it was really good. But I want to talk about The Rock, man. I feel like he was off in this movie as far as like his physique. Normally The Rock, you know, comes on and he's like, whoa, look at this big guy, you know? I think he was off a little.
Yeah, I mean, for his standards, yeah. But, you know, compared to his wrestling days, I'd say he was still in great shape, you know, because he got so much bigger after he stopped wrestling, you know, when he started getting into filming and acting.
Yeah, because he saw the Hollywood doctor.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure he had a WWE doctor back then. He just wasn't as advanced as the Hollywood doctor, you know. But, yeah, I mean, he's gotten tremendous since he stopped wrestling. And I think it was, I don't know if it was Fast 5 or 6 or 7. I don't know which one it was at this point. But he was huge and probably at his best shape ever. Or maybe he was in the best shape for Pain and Gain. But, you know, now he's still in great shape for him. But, you know, compared to his best, he definitely wasn't the best.
Yeah, nah, he was definitely smaller than he was. I'm surprised. who knows? Maybe the Hollywood doctor told him he's got to take some time off, and it just happened to be during that filming of that movie.
Yeah, I don't think they would recommend that during the filming. They would say take the
but
time off.
But he was smaller,
after.
man. He was genuinely smaller.
No, I agree. I'm just saying I don't think that was a recommendation.
Those movies, they're good, but they no more racing in them. Not like the first one. The first one was all about racing. There's like one racing scene in the whole movie. It became an action movie, you know?
Yeah, it's a pure action movie. It has nothing to do with the original storyline. It's almost like every single character is transformed from the first episode, the first edition of it till now, and it's taken on a completely new, there's a whole new storyline, a whole new feel. All the characters have progressed so much that they're almost not the same,
Yeah. Whatever, it is what it is. But guys, I just want to let you know the testosterone course that we had, the maximize testosterone, the price is back to full price. So if you missed that sale, sorry guys, you're never going to get it at that price again. But you can still head over to newyorkmuscleradio.com/maxtest, and you can pick up the course there and learn everything that we know about testosterone and what to do to increase it naturally. So you won't look like The Rock, get big, get small, get big, get small. I hate when people do that, man. Like normal people in the gym, they come and they blow up. Summer's coming, man, and they blow up, and then the next, after summer, they look at them and they're like, "Oh,
yeah." I mean, I guess it's better than doing nothing, but yeah, I hear you. If you do it,
better
you may
than doing
as well.
nothing. How is that better than doing nothing? You're better off just staying natural and just make progress consistently.
Oh no, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about people that just sit on their ass all day and do nothing. I'm saying if you go to the gym and you get in shape for the summer, and then you go back to being, your normal. In between, that's better than just sitting on your ass and never getting in shape, But I do agree that if you're going to get in shape, stay in shape year round.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. For me, especially if you're not competing or anything, what's the sense of even bothering taking stuff? I mean, like The Rock, it's totally different for him because obviously he makes his money from that. So it's worth, I guess, the consequence. Well, he's definitely being monitored by the Hollywood doctor. So
right, that's what I had said a long time ago when we came up with the Hollywood doctor. A lot of these actors are taking that stuff just because they'll get in shape for a role, and they might not even particularly want to look like that. It just fits the role, and a lot of people have actually said that too. I remember Zac Efron, speaking of The Rock, because he's going to be in the next movie with him too, the Baywatch movie. Zac Efron says that he doesn't even like getting big or getting muscular. His bigger or muscular. And after after he finishes his movie, he just stops working out and he goes back to being quote unquote his normal self, And
I didn't know that. Because he's been getting bigger, progressively through all his movies. If you watched any of his earlier movies,
he doesn't stay like that though. In between, he gets in shape for the movies. Yeah, I think it was after. It might have been after the first Neighbors movie when he really got in shape. Like he never really looked like he really worked out. Before then, he kind of just had like an average look to him. He said afterwards that I think he was like 180 pounds for that movie, and he said he was too big and his t-shirts weren't fitting him and he was uncomfortable, so he just stopped working out afterwards and lost all that uncomfortable muscle that he had on him. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. People do this just for the movie and then they stop afterwards. He doesn't really care about that stuff. It just, he gets paid a lot of money to get in shape for movies, so that's why he does it. Yeah,
I mean, it makes sense, but I don't know. It makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. How could you look at pictures? And I think about this all the time, even with like Arnold, I mean, he's a lot older now. It's not like he stopped working out, but like, can you imagine being Arnold and looking back at pictures of yourself in your 20s and just, like I would get depressed. This is why I don't want to get older, man. This is why I'm having such a hard time turning 30. I don't want to turn 30 because I know one day I'm going to turn around and I'm going to be 60 and I'm going to be like, I remember when I used to squat 500 pounds for reps.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, there's always ways in fitness to keep progressing even as you get older, but your focus needs to change. I mean, as you get older, you can get better at doing other things, but yeah, you're probably not going to squat more in your 50s and 60s than you did in your 20s and 30s.
Actually, you never know, man. Don't say that, because I'm sure there's people who've started later and have gotten there, and I'm not saying I'm going to be crippled by 60, but you get the idea.
No, but I'm saying, like, if you're going to compare yourself at 60 to where you are at 30, there's definitely things that you can do at 50 or 60 that you probably couldn't do at 30 as long as you change your focus on training. You know what I mean? Now, I don't know, if you want to get into some other aspect of fitness, you could definitely progress further in your 50s and 60s than you ever were in your 20s and 30s.
Yeah, that's true. Muscle maturity, too. That's also a big thing that happens as you age. Your muscle just looks totally different as you get older. It takes less to maintain it, whereas when you're younger, it takes so much to actually put the muscle on and keep it there. When you're older, it kind of sticks to you a little bit differently.
Yeah, well, the longer you have that muscle, the more it's actually going to stick, quote-unquote stick,
Do you notice a difference now that you're older versus when you were like 21, 20?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I notice it more so compared to when I was like 18 or 19, because arguably I put on, I'd say about 90% of the muscle, or even 95% of the muscle I have right now by the time I was like 18 or 19. You know, I pretty much from there just refined it, added a little bit more over the course of, you know, the time from then until now. But when I put that muscle on, it was from when I was, you know, about 14, 15 when I started working out till about 18, 19. That muscle really it wasn't really, you know, mature. When people talk about muscle maturity, they're really talking about the denseness of the muscle and the roundness and the shape to it. Because when you kind of put muscle on really fast, it gives you that little like balloonish type look, and it's a very soft look. You know, and a lot of times you can lose that very fast while your muscles still kind of look like that because it's new muscle. I know this sounds kind of like bro science, but it's pretty true if you take a look at it. You know, so even if you're the same weight at 19 years old with the same amount of muscle and you maintain it till you're 29, let's say, that muscle is going to have a completely different look to it. And that's the muscle maturity, because you grew that muscle a while ago and now you're just maintaining it. So your body actually becomes more, you know, the term is mature with that muscle, but you can see it. It definitely looks different. And I'd say when you put that muscle on, the longer it's on, it's very hard to lose it once you maintain it. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Guys, we're also proud to announce that our strong wraps are in. So we've also, in addition to the strong grips, you can head on over to newyorkmuscleradio.com/strong wraps. And we have developed wrist wraps. And these are so cool. I'm so excited. And they're yellow and black, which I love. And they just make a perfect addition to strong grips. What did I say today, man? I forgot the slogan I came up with when we caught him. What the hell did I say?
You said something about
they're a strong arsenal in your gym bag.
Gym bag. Yeah. I mean, it's very true. I mean, we're starting to fill up the gym bag with all New York Muscle Radio products. You know, I mean, my gym bag is pretty much packed right now with them, which is good because
that and bottles. You have a lot of empty water bottles in your bag. You're like an Asian woman. You know, in the morning on that garbage night, that's you.
In case I need a penny or a nickel or whatever it is, I got an extra plastic water bottle in my bag. But yeah, I mean, like I said, we're filling up the bags, and that's really been our goal, not to fill up the bags, but to create a place with New York Muscle Radio and products where everyone can come and, you know, you could get what you need without breaking the bank and, you know, not getting robbed or ripped off. And, you know, come here, you get the information you need. Get the products that are actually going to help you. And,
no fluff.
Yeah, and not rip you off the way people do, because, you know, this is coming from a place where me and Anthony were just like everybody that listens to this right now. We wanted the information to get bigger, stronger, leaner, and we didn't want the bullshit. And there was too much bullshit around. There was too much products that were just gimmicky, and, you know, there was no resource like this, so we created it, and, you know, we keep adding things to it that we would have benefited from back then and would still benefit from now. We use all these products ourselves. I use strong grips. I use strong wraps. You know, and we put that out there for you guys. So, like we said, we added that that's a new addition to the New York Muscle Radio collection, and yeah, you guys could pick that up along with your strong grips.
Yeah, and shipping is, you know, someone emailed us and asked us a question about shipping, you know, how long does it take? Literally, if I get the order within a certain time, I have it ready for the next day and it goes out the next day. So, you know, you guys will get it within a week, definitely. Even close to a week. I know I can't compete with Amazon with like next day Prime and stuff like that, but we definitely could get it really close. I know Prime is 2 days, so we're probably like 3 days.
Yeah, very close.
I pride myself on that.
Yeah, it depends how far you guys are, but if you're close enough, yeah, you'll get it. You'll get it within Amazon Prime time.
Like I've had, you know, people yell at me like, you know, you go to the post office every day. That's stupid. Just pull everything and wait and take everything, you know, at the end of the week. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to do that. I want everyone to get their stuff, because I know me too. When I order something, I want it like now. Yeah. You know what I mean? So for me, I don't want to, and plus I don't want to sit on this stuff. Like I don't want the stuff just sitting in my house. You know, like once it's packed, I don't want it sitting there. I want to get it out to the person. I want the person to be able to use it, and you know, we get those pictures that people are using it, and, you know, videos of them using the stuff in the gym, and it's just cool to see that. So I know that with every order we send out, it's sent out with love, and, you know, someone's supporting us. So we thank you guys, and remember, head on over to newyorkmuscleradio.com/strong wraps for your strong wrist wraps. And I actually like using them. I use them for squats. The only thing that sucks is I can't use mine for squats in competition because they check all that stuff, and it's not regulated to them. But in my normal training, I can. So, and they're really cool because I use them a lot for curls also, because it helps keep my wrist nice and straight. So they actually have a lot of uses, and they are different than the strong grips. Strong grips will help you stay on the bar. Strong wraps will help your wrist stay in line. So it's totally different. Like I said, I use them for bicep curls, and it definitely helps take any pressure off the tendons also. So that's a cool little way to use it. And again, head on over there, pick up your set today. And again, we bundling them together with the strong grip. So
Yeah, and I was never big when I first started training on using too many gym accessories, but I know if I had to narrow it down to three of them, it would definitely be a weightlifting belt, straps, and wraps. And I've been using wraps a lot more recently in the past, I'd say like 2 or 3 years. And it's simply because the fact that if you're squatting and you're benching with a high frequency throughout the week, I'd say it's almost a must if you want to avoid any type of wrist pain, injury, or just overuse injury, because when you're wrapping your wrist around your hand around the bar and your wrist is getting flexion multiple times a week on a heavy squat bar, and then you go bench heavy twice, 2-3 times a week, whatever it is. We were doing training at one point where we were training 6 days in a row where the wrist was in extreme flexion and it's getting a lot of stress. So you're going to want to protect those wrists. You're going to want to protect those joints. So this is another piece of gym equipment that'll definitely benefit you for long-term use. So it's definitely, like I said, it's stuff that we use. We're not putting anything out there that we don't personally use. And, if we think we could benefit from it, you guys could definitely benefit from it as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I'm glad we went with the yellow, man. I like the yellow. We were going to do red because black and red is my colors, but I like the yellow, man. The yellow just pops. And I think next round we'll definitely do yellow and blue together, mix them, because that's like the New York Muscle Radio colors. I think it will look cool.
Yeah, definitely. Those are our colors.
Yeah, and also, guys, you guys been asking about the protein. So the New York Muscle Radio protein is back in stock. Heading over to products, and you can pick up your protein today. Pete, man, I want to tell you, I came across this article, and I thought it was cool and interesting, so I figured we'd talk about it on the podcast. Do you know what a cluster set is?
Yeah, so a cluster set is generally, let's say you're going to do a certain amount of reps. Instead of doing 3 sets of 10, you can do a set, however many reps you're going to do in the cluster set. Rest, couple seconds, do more reps, rest, and then complete all the required reps. So you're basically combining multiple sets into one with little short breaks. It's not a rest pause set because you're not going to failure, but you're doing reps, rest, and then finish the set.
Yeah, correct. Now, it's a little different than what you said. You're right. You're not wrong. But you can do it. There's a certain way to do it where you time yourself, basically. So you'll take like 6 minutes to complete the movement. So I came across this article, and it talks about using cluster sets for extra volume if your workout is short. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how I feel about it, man. I wanted to bring it up because I'm not sure how I feel about it. So, so for example, using pull-ups, and using them for this. I don't know if that would really work. I think if you don't have enough time, you just hurry up your workout. I really don't think that doing cluster sets is magic, and I don't think it's going to take you that extra mile.
No, I agree 100%. I mean, the whole point behind cluster sets, like you said, would really be just to get extra volume in a short period of time, because which it will do. But again, it's not going to add any additional benefit. So let's just say you're going to do 3 sets of 10 on pull-ups. So if you look at your overall volume, let's just say you're doing a body weight. Your overall volume is 30 reps, right? So maybe your set of 10 is at a higher, you're going close to failure. Maybe you're not failing though. So maybe you have 1 or 2 more in the tank, and so you could do 12 to failure, but you're stopping at 10, resting 2 minutes, doing 10, resting 2 minutes, doing 10, right? So you're doing 30 reps, but you're training at a much higher fatigue percentage, let's say, because each set is going to be harder. Now, you can get those 30 reps in by breaking it down into clusters of, let's say, 5 or 6 reps. Now, the first set of 5 or 6 is not going to be very hard at all because you could do 12. But you're only going to rest a very short period of time because you're trying to squeeze all those in. So you're going to do a quick rest, do another set of 5 to 6 quick rest, keep repeating it till you get to 30 reps or whatever. You could get those 30 reps done much faster doing it in a cluster, but each set is trained much further away from failure, which, as we always talk about, volume is always going to be the most important thing, but training close to or near failure definitely has its benefits, especially for building muscle, for hypertrophy as well. So that's one component you're kind of taking out, but you're sacrificing that to save more time. So you're going to get the benefits of the volume, but you're taking it away from, the metabolic fatigue that you would get from training close to failure. So it has its pros and its cons. I'd say overall, though, you're doing yourself a little bit of a disservice by doing that. But if your goal is just for the volume, if that's the only reason you're doing it, you want to cut down time, you can do that.
Yeah, I don't think it would work, though, man. Think about it. So we did back today, and if we did our 5 sets of pull downs, right? If we did them within 6 minutes, those pull downs are going to suffer. So normally if we were to get, just say 5 sets of 12 reps, right? That's what we normally do. if we were to cluster that and do it within 6 minutes, yeah, we'd save time, but we definitely wouldn't get all the reps that we needed. So our volume would be lower, hence our back workout would be less, and we wouldn't gain as much on our back. So I would try to avoid all that stuff. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's going to make or break anything. I would only do a cluster set. Like I said, I would just hurry up. I wouldn't even call it a cluster. I wouldn't do it on purpose. I would just hurry up.
Right, but the only way to do a true cluster set and to get all those reps in, like I said, would be to cut down on how many reps you do in each cluster, because there's no way you're going to get to 12, because we're training to 12, we're basically almost hitting failure each set. We need about 2 minutes or so just to recover enough to get another 12. If we were to try to cluster that and do it 30 seconds later, we might get 6 reps, 7 reps or whatever, and the volume's going to go down significantly. So the only way to get that volume in is you're going to have to cut those reps off to begin with and just add more sets in. But again, the volume's going to end up being the same, but you're going to be training to failure less or close to failure a lot less. So you're not going to get the same benefit.
Yeah, so guys, don't fall prey to all these things and think that they're magic and going to do wonders for your body. You know, oh, if I use cluster sets for my biceps, they're going to grow. No, you'll probably just get a huge pump. But remember, the overall stimulus for growth is volume, 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 and tonnage, basically. So if if you normally do barbell curls with 50 pounds, 3 sets of 12, that's a certain amount of volume, and if you just keep adding to that, your biceps are going to grow. Not if you do the special, peak curls, they're not going to grow from that. It's just volume over time. It's that simple, but people make it way complicated. All right, man, let's move on to the listener question of the day. Guys, if you have a question you'd like us to answer, you could submit it on our website, newyorkmuscleradio.com/listener question, or you can call your question in. We've told you guys to call in. I haven't had anyone call in, man. Everyone's afraid. They don't want their voice being heard on the radio, huh?
Everyone's a spectator, guys. Come on, join the party.
What did you call that again? The voyeur?
The voyeurs, yeah.
Yeah, voyeur. All right, so today's question, this is from Dave. And he says, hey, Pete and Anthony, do you guys have any guidelines to following regarding insulin sensitivity and carb cycling? I've been consistently at 300 grams of carbs for around 5 months now. And from what I've read about microcycling, it's just going from high days to low carb days. But how is that any more optimal than just consistently consuming a mid amount of carbs every day, like I do, he says. Does becoming insulin insensitive not apply to my situation? I've been able to gain weight steadily without having to increase calories, just a steady 35% macro intake from carbs. I guess just clarification would be nice because you guys kind of scare me with that insulin talk in the previous episodes. LOL, I don't want to be gaining fat on this bulk. Feel free to paraphrase this question for the show. With love from upstate New York, Dave. That's a good question, man. And he's basically talking about one of the episodes. I really wish I knew this off my head. But in one of the episodes, I forget what number it was, we talked about cycling carbs, to stay a little bit leaner in the off season when bulking. Because, again, when you guys go on an extended period of trying to gain muscle, you're going to be in a caloric surplus, meaning you're going to be eating more calories. Your body tends to, when those carb intakes, the carb levels in your body, when they're full, the glycogen levels are full, you just end up keep spilling over all day. So you get to the point of no return. So he's talking about when we talked about this, just cycling that and having like a low day of carbs and a high day, just to kind of keep that insulin sensitivity better and improved. So that was basically his question. Is it necessary?
Yeah, well, the answer is it necessary, and when and where it's beneficial is going to be different for everybody. So I'll use myself as an example because somebody asked me this the other day. I find for myself in an extended period of bulking, at least now, in the past it was different because I handled carbs a little bit better when I was a little younger, I guess. But now, whenever I'm extendedly bulking for a certain period of time, taking my carbs over 400 grams a day, every single day of the week, will eventually lead to some insulin resistance.
I want to say something. So that 400 gram of carb, that's just Pete's amount.
Right.
You guys listening to this, maybe we have someone on here who that amount for them is 200 grams of carbs a day. Maybe we have someone listening to this and that amount for them is 500 or 600 grams of carbs a day. It's totally dependent on you. So that don't use 400 as the ultimate number. It's definitely different for everybody, that number. So you'll figure out that number. It's that point when you're bulking and just like, that's like the number, whatever number that is for you. You'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, everyone will get to that point. So, like Anthony said, people, for everybody it's different. I said for myself, even in the past, that I could go a lot higher. I could go like 500. But now it's right around 400 for me. And I don't mind that, by the way, either. But, when I keep it consistently like that for a long period of time, in the beginning, 400 grams is fine. I'll probably, my insulin sensitivity would be great. But when you keep it there for an extended period of time, you're constantly feeding yourself that amount of food on a day-to-day basis. Your body will get to the point now where, your glycogen stores are pretty much tapped out. You don't really need to eat anymore to fill those out. And the only thing that could happen is they will spill over into the fat cells. So you don't want to go beyond that point. But at the same time, too, how do you keep insulin sensitivity high? You have to give yourself days of the week or even mini cuts. We talked about you could do both. You could either go through phases of mini cuts or you can just cycle your carbs, where 1 or 2 days a week you're going a lot lower, because you're not going to deplete yourself in 1 or 2 days when your carbs are that high the other 5 days of the week. So what'll happen is basically you give yourself a day where you're going to have to actually use all those glycogen stores, replenish them, and then start the cycle over again. So basically it's like, your gas tank is full. Instead of keeping it full all the time, you're going to run it down closer to E. You don't have to go on E, but you're going to, use some of that gas, put it back in the car. And then that keeps the cycle going and, keeps your insulin sensitivity, in a good range without getting resistant to it. But when you keep it on, if you keep your gas tank on full, or if you try pouring more gas in the tank, bad things are going to start to happen. And that's when you start becoming more resistant to insulin. And then you're more likely to start storing body fat. So you want to keep that cycle going. And, even 1 or 2 low days of the week will help that, really well. And I think that's like at the bare minimum. That's fine. You can get more advance with it and cycle, have low days, medium days, high days. There's a time and place for that. Actually, we have Anthony doing that right now, but he's reverse dieting a little bit. But in general, just as an off-season scenario, I'd keep them high every single day of the week until you hit that point, then like Anthony said, the point, when you start eating too much where you'll notice that going on. Then just throw in 1 or 2 days of lower carbs, and that'll keep your body, pretty efficient at burning through carbs instead of becoming resistant to them.
Yeah. So I think that you answered his question pretty much. He asked if he has to do that. I think, like, again, if you've been bulking for over 6 months and you're still relatively lean and want to continue bulking, then yes, then that's when I think that you should start doing it. He says he's actually been bulking for around 5 months now and he's lean. So yeah, I would say at this point I would do it just so you stay leaner and you're able to put on more muscle longer. So I think that was a good question, yeah. Dave. Thank you so much for the question.
Do you want to get the results you've always dreamed of? Do you want coaches that genuinely care, are professional, and get back to you in a timely manner? Do you want to be stronger, healthier, and look better naked? Then let me tell you, New York Muscle Radio is definitely your answer. Since working with them, I can hardly believe the results.
They coached me through a post-contest reverse diet and all the way through to an off-season strength program.
These two fitness geniuses have pushed me outside of my comfort zone, and in the process, I have been able to make big jumps on all of my major lifts.
In 14 weeks, I added 100 pounds to my powerlifting total and smashed my first meet.
Since working with them, I've added 55 pounds to my squat, 50 pounds to my deadlift, and 20 pounds to my bench press.
And in 12 weeks, I dropped over 10 pounds of body fat and added over 20 pounds to all my lifts.
I have never had as amazing of glutes as I have training with them. So I can say, no matter what your goals are, you're guaranteed to be stronger, healthier, and let's face it, better looking if Pete and Anthony are your coaches.
So if you are tuning in to listen and learn from the huge array of knowledge these two have, or if you want to hire them as your coaches, you will not be disappointed.
New York Muscle Radio is the best in the business.
You heard it from our New York Muscle Radio clients. Do you want to join our team and reach your fitness goals? Visit NewYorkMuscleRadio.com for all our coaching programs.
But I'll tell you what, when I'm done, my biceps are humongous. Humongous. Like that, bang!
My name is Anthony Bevilacqua, and I'm the host of New York Muscle Radio podcast. My arms have been a weak point for years. When I started training, my arms measured 11 inches. Even after many years of hardcore training, nothing would get them to grow. With the help of my co-host, Big Pete, we set out on a mission to gain 1 solid inch to my arms in 12 weeks.
In the greatest experiment of all.
12 weeks later, this program finally helped me get 18-inch arms. The 12-week Arm Experiment, the ultimate arm growth program, ebook, the audio book, and the workout video. Pick up your copy now on NewYorkMuscleRadio.com.
great coffee.
Doesn't it taste good as fresh perk?
Better.
Better than those girls make at the office?
Honey, their coffee can't hold a candle to yours.
Caffeine, the world's only instant coffee that's fortified with muscle-building protein. Visit buyproteincoffee.com now.
Nice, Pete.
What?
I saw you checking out that girl's butt.
What? I was just checking out her yoga pants.
Pete.
I was thinking you'd look really good in yoga pants.
Uh-huh.
I was like trying to check out what brand it was. Like I was looking at her form on deadlifts. They were all messed up.
Do you think she has a nicer butt than me?
Well, it definitely doesn't look like a pancake.
Did you just call my butt a pancake?
Well, I mean...
What can I do?
You gotta try New York Muscle Radio's Glutylicious program.
Glutylicious?
Yeah, you'll finally get a celebrity booty, like all the other girls following the program.
Fine, I'll do it. But don't get jealous when other guys check out my glutylicious ass.
Glutylicious, your guide to getting a celebrity booty in 12 weeks. Now available exclusively at NewYorkMuscleRadio.com.
What's up, New York Muscle Radio listeners? It's your co-host, Big Pete Kacharian, and I'm glad you're all listening. Put down that tilapia and asparagus. Learn how to get bigger, stronger, and leaner eating what you want. Pick up a copy of Cracking the Flexible Dieting Code exclusively at NewYorkMuscleRadio.com. But for now, let's get to the show.
All right, let's move on to today's topic. So, how to turn fat into muscle and vice versa. Again, a question I've heard as a trainer for so long, even just talking to people. Yeah, I get all this fat, but why gotta start working out? It's going to turn into muscle. So, is this truth? Is this myth? Like, what is this? Is this something that, I know some of you guys, you saw the title and you're like, oh, God, it's going to be one of those podcasts. But I can't even begin to tell you how many general people actually think that fat is muscle and muscle is fat, and you could actually turn one into the other. So, can you actually turn fat into muscle? So the answer is no. Fat and muscle are two different tissues. One does not turn into the other, and vice versa. Muscle is a separate tissue from fat. Muscle is responsible for movement, and fat is responsible for insulation.
Yeah, and I think this is more of a misconception than anything, because there's plenty of people that actually believe this to be true, but then there's a misconception also, that total weight either represents muscle or fat. Meanwhile, everyone always has a certain body fat percentage and always a certain lean body mass percentage. So when you see people that, let's say they're 200 pounds and they say, okay, I want to stay at this weight, but I want to turn it all to muscle. Yeah, you can recomp, you can lose body fat and you can gain muscle and still be sitting at 200 pounds. But the process is you have to burn body fat and you have to grow lean body mass. So how does that happen? It doesn't happen from converting fat into muscle. You actually have to diet down, lose body fat, and you have to actually build muscle. So you can sit at 200 pounds and recomp your body, but it's not through the process of taking that fat and turning that into muscle. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah, again, I think people, when they say that, it's just, like you said, it's just all about recomping. You're basically recomping your body, but no one knows the actual term for it. So, but people believe this to be true, and then the other thing, too, that people also believe to be true is, does muscle turn into fat when you stop working out? I mean, I've heard this so many times, too. Yeah, I heard, used to hear this, too. Yeah, I don't want to get too big because then, when I stop lifting, I'm going to get fat. It's like, no.
Yeah,
you're getting fat because you're not shutting your fucking mouth.
Right.
That's why you're getting fat.
The muscle can't actually turn into fat. Like you said, it's two different tissues. The one thing that will happen, and a lot of people, you do see this, they might bulk up, they might gain a lot of muscle. Let's say they bulked up to 200 pounds, and what happens is then they start slacking on their training, and then their eating is off. You might see them actually a couple months later still at 200 pounds, and they say, you know what, I didn't gain any weight, I didn't lose any muscle, the weight's exactly the same. But if you look at their body composition, it's completely different, because you know what happened? They started losing that lean body mass, but because their diet was so bad, they started adding body fat. And when I use the term replacing loosely, because the fact is the weight stayed the same. So in theory, yes, they replaced that lean body mass with fat, but they didn't actually convert fat into muscle. That's not what happened. They actually lost that muscle mass, and in the process put body fat on. So, in essence, if they were training hard and they put that body fat on, their weight would go up. But because they lost lean body mass, their weight didn't actually change, but their body composition changed completely. And that's something that does happen a lot, especially when people stop working out. They think they replaced it with fat. That's not what happened. You just kept eating and you lost muscle. So you replaced your body weight with fat weight.
Yeah, one of the things too, reason why I think this actually happens is when you start working out with weights, you get hungry, man.
Mm-hmm.
You get hungry, and I remember thinking as a kid too, I used to work out and get hungry and just be like, wow, hey man, I'm getting hungry. I'm eating all this food. It's going to go straight to my biceps, and it doesn't really work like that, but it does amplify your appetite, man, working out just in general. So I think, again, and then people just get used to eating that over and over and over like that, and that's how they end up fat. But can you believe this is actually a thing, man? How to turn fat into muscle? Can you believe we're actually doing a podcast on this? But we have to debunk this stuff, man. We're no fluff here. We have to, get rid of this, because I can't believe people actually think about this.
Yeah, and a lot of people too, they get under the misconception that because they built muscle in the first place, that they can continue to eat that amount of calories to maintain their weight. So if you're working out hard, like again, I'll use myself as an example. I maintain my weight right now on 4,000 calories or so. If I were to stop working out, the second my body starts to atrophy from not weight training, my caloric intake has to adjust drastically, or I'm going to just replace it all with fat. And that's what happens with a lot of people, because now I'm not weight training. I'm not burning as much calories. Now I'm losing muscle. My body's not burning as much calories during rest time. So my calorie requirements are going to have to go down. So if I don't adequately adjust that, now I'm going to store fat and lose muscle. So I'm going to look even worse than if I just lost that muscle. So that's what happens with most people. They continue to eat the same, and they stop working out, and they don't change their calories, and start putting on body fat.
Now, part of my ignorance here, Pete, and I'm going to ask you because I'm not exactly sure.
Mm-hmm.
So when you actually lose muscle, you're not actually losing the actual tissue that you've built. The tissue kind of stays. It just gets flat, right? I don't think you actually lose the muscle tissue that you actually built unless you actually starve yourself.
Well, it's not like the muscle comes off your body. It's not like hair that you would shed.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it sounds like that when you say you lose muscle. You don't actually lose muscle. The size of it just atrophies. So, you could think about it like, blowing up a balloon or something like that. The balloon is still the same size, but now there's air in it. So on a muscle, you're talking about that there's more protein in the muscle. The muscle is actually fuller. There's more water in the muscle, etc. So the muscle's larger in size, but you're not actually growing more of it. If you're a natural bodybuilder, you're not growing new muscle cells. It's not like that. You're hypertrophying them, so they're just getting larger. So it's not like you lost part of that muscle. That muscle is just going to shrink in size. And what happens when it shrinks in size, like I said, is your metabolic rate is going to go down because it's not supporting as much body weight, as much muscle mass, etc. And you have to compensate that with the amount of calories you're eating. So it's got to be in accordance with how much muscle you have on your frame.
Yeah, and the same thing with fat too. A lot of people don't know this, but too, when you burn fat, you don't actually get rid of the fat cell. The fat cell itself just actually shrinks, and it's just think of like a bubble. So the bubble is really big when there's fat in it, and then when the fat leaves and the fat gets burnt off, that bubble becomes really, really small. So this is why when people get liposuction, I think that it's going to be the end all be all, because they're removing fat cells. And yeah, that's fine. But let's just say, for instance, your body has 200 fat cells for whatever. That's just the number I'm picking. Your body has 200 fat cells. If you get 50 fat cells sucked out, your body's still registering that there's 200 and there's still 150. So your body will make an extra 50. And this is what happens. And I've seen it firsthand. People get liposuction, end up gaining fat in other areas that they don't watch their diet.
Yeah, it looks really bad.
And it looks worse.
It
yeah,
looks
I've definitely
really
seen
bad.
that. I had a woman once. She had liposuction. It was a little different. She got like reconstructive surgery on her stomach because C-section, kids and whatnot. And your stomach gets really messed up for women, usually if you have multiple C-sections, they keep cutting in the area, too much scar tissue, blah, blah, blah. So she ended up getting like a tummy tuck, and ended up doing a little bit of liposuction in the area as well, and didn't follow her diet, didn't stay on her diet, actually gained some weight, and it gained it like in her love handles, but like it looked really bad. It looked like a pocket.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
On the sides.
I've seen that a lot before too. I've had a couple clients also that had the whatever you want to call it or whatever, but they'll get the rubber bands put on at the Staples or whatever the procedure is. And they lose a significant amount of body fat. But then in men generally, the first place they put body fat on is around the stomach. Most of them. Everyone has a little bit different of genetic predispositions, but men, that's usually the first place for it to go. Women, it's usually, the legs, the lower back, the hips, everything like that. But I've seen men with no fat in their body that have gotten that surgery before, and then all of a sudden they just add a shit ton of fat to their hips, their lower back, places where they never had fat in the first place. And it's absolutely true. It's because of that. So the real key is just don't get overly fat in the first place, because what happens is when you get fat like that, like Anthony said, you're going to increase the amount of fat cells in your body like that. So when you're younger and you put on a ton of body fat, now even if you get older and you do lose body fat, those fat cells aren't actually going to go away. They're just going to shrink in size. So you're always going to have a predisposition to gaining fat again. So for the rest of your life, there is actually some evidence to show that after long periods of time of keeping that body fat off, that it becomes a lot harder for you to regain that fat. But the fact of the matter is, when you put on all that fat in the first place, those fat cells are going to stay there, and you're always going to have that in your body. So now you have much more fat cells that can get larger, and you can put on fat. So if you stay lean, it's going to be less of a problem. But when you get fat in the first place, it's going to make it harder down the line to stay lean.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things too with a lot of people, they think that that fat, like you said, the fat's going to come off forever. It's not like that. Usually in this country, we don't have a problem losing weight. We have a problem keeping weight off. Yeah. Again, lifestyle. Again, if you're used to trying to bulk up and put in all these calories, and when you start to diet, eventually you're probably going to end up going back to all those calories. Even though you're generally a skinny guy, it's usually what happens, because it becomes lifestyle to eat all those calories. So your appetite ramps up, and your body adjusts to what you do to it. So this is why it's never good to be an extreme of anything. It's never good to diet down way too much, and it's never good to bulk up way too much. It's just not ideal. But yeah, man, I've seen that surgery. I mean, listen, I get the whole thing with, obviously if you have kids and you're, C-sections and whatnot, I totally understand that. And I'm not saying I advocate for it, and I'm not saying that you can't lose a lot of body fat and change that area, but there is scar tissue there, because it is a major surgery that you literally cut your stomach. So it's not an easy thing, and I understand if a woman gets that fixed, I totally get it, but don't think that by getting it fixed that it's permanent. You have to change everything. You have to change the diet. You have to make it a lifestyle. You just have to do that. You can't think that it's something that, this is going to be the end all be all. You know how many people I had that, I came for training because it was either this or surgery. It's like, really? Did you really think that was going to be the end all be all? It's the same thing with like gastric bypass. How many people get gastric bypass surgery, and then I'm sure you've heard these stories, because I've heard them too. People go and get gastric bypass and end up gaining weight still.
Yeah, I know plenty of people that have done that too. And the fact is, there is no one fix for anything. Working out is something you have to do on a constant basis. And even if you want to get that surgery, you're going to have to maintain the lifestyle after that surgery to keep that fat off, So you can replace anything that you do with surgery if you go back to really bad habits. So, the fact is, with anything, if we're talking about burning fat and building muscle, you're always going to have to look at what you're doing and eat accordingly. So just because you got surgery and you lost weight doesn't mean now you can eat exactly what you were eating before. You're going to have to compensate. Okay, now I lost weight. I'm lighter. If I eat the right amount of calories for how light I am right now, I'm not going to gain fat. If I eat more than what I'm burning off right now, I'm going to gain fat.
Yeah, so let's roll into the only way to lose fat. So, guys, if you're listening to this and you thought before, wow, if I work out, I'm going to turn my fat into muscle. Can't turn your fat into muscle, but we're going to teach you how to lose fat, how to shrink those fat cells down. The only way to do that is through a caloric deficit. Now, you could do endless amount of cardio, because people also think that if they do cardio, they're going to lose weight. You could work out for hours, but ultimately, the ultimate driver for losing body fat is caloric deficit. That means that if you're consuming 3,000 calories now, you have to cut that down and consume less. So 2,500, let's just say. In order to burn 1 pound, you need to burn 3,500 calories in a week. So that's 500 calorie deficit a day. So that would put you at 2,500 calories for 7 days, and boom, that would exactly where you need to be, and you lose a pound a week according to that. I'm simplifying this just so you guys understand, but that's the only way to lose fat. Again, a good reference point for this is picking up a copy of Cracking the Flexible Dieting Code over at New York Muscle Radio. We teach you guys how to figure out exactly how many calories you need, and especially for if you have a slow metabolism or a fast metabolism. So again, pick up that reference, but that's the only way to lose fat. That's it. You can't, if you lift weights, it's not going to lose fat.
Right. And that's where the misconception comes in too, because like I said, if somebody wants to maintain the same weight but they want to burn fat and they want to build muscle, it would be nice if you could actually turn fat tissue into muscle tissue. Then you wouldn't have to go on a calorie deficit and you wouldn't have to go on a calorie surplus. You could just eat at maintenance. Your body would use, the extra fat cells that you have, the energy from the fat to build muscle. But muscle requires you to be in a surplus because you're adding new tissues. So you're going to have to be in a surplus to build that muscle. Therefore, you're not going to be able to burn fat at the same time. So you're going to have to go through one phase and then go into the other. So even if you're trying to maintain that exact same weight, you have to go through a phase of a caloric deficit so that you can burn that fat off. And then to replace it with muscle, you have to go in a caloric surplus. So you can get there. You can maintain the same weight. So in theory, you could replace that fat with muscle, but you can't actually take that fat and turn it into muscle. That won't actually happen.
Yeah, no way. And just to touch on this point, you do have to still exercise with free weights. Work out with free weights, still train with progressive overload, because whatever builds muscle is going to keep muscle on your frame. So if you're trying to lose fat and only fat, you have to exercise. You have to work out with weights, heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, things like that. That's what's going to keep the muscle on your frame. And in order, so when you do diet down, your body doesn't say, okay, I don't need all this muscle because there's no reason for it. So you got to make sure you're doing that. Now, the only way to gain muscle, like Pete said, is being in a caloric surplus. But your weight training is going to be so important. One of the things too in weight training is definitely one of those things that can definitely get overblown. People think there's magical routines, magical exercises, and like we talked about in the cluster sets before, there's nothing magic. You have to do your main lifts, you have to do them progressively, and you have to do them over time. And that's what's going to put the most amount of muscle on your frame naturally. That's simple. So you have to be in a caloric surplus to gain muscle, and you have to be progressing always, every week, every block, every workout, always trying to be doing more than you did last time, and that's how you're going to put muscle on.
Yeah, and you mentioned this, the biggest mistake that people make is if they're trying to lose fat and they're not paying attention to that, they will lose muscle too. So if you take somebody, let's say the same person who's 200 pounds, and I'm sure people are on this boat right now, let's say they want to lose weight for the summer or something like that, and let's say based on where they are with the amount of muscle mass they have and the body fat percentage they're at right now, let's say they need to get down to 165. If they want to get their ideal physique, right? All right, so you got to get down from 200 to 165. Now that's provided that you maintain your muscle mass and you're just burning body fat. What happens is a lot of people, if they're not paying attention to their weight training, they'll burn almost just as much muscle as they are body fat by not maintaining it through the proper weight training and through the proper nutrition. So now they might get down to 165 and still not be at their goal because they also lost muscle too. So now they have to get even lighter just to get their body fat percentage where they want to look good. So they might have to diet down another 10 pounds. So they're actually making it harder on themselves by not maintaining that muscle mass. So that's really the key, especially if you're trying to diet down, is maintain that muscle mass, because then you don't have to lose as much weight. So you could actually just burn through body fat, get to where you want a lot faster.
Yeah. Now, another myth too, and I want to talk about it because I feel like this also fits in. I've heard this so many times before. Should you do cardio first and then bulk up? I believe we did a podcast on this, did we?
I think we did. Yep.
We did a whole podcast on it. I wish I knew what number it was off my head, man. We got to get better at that, man. I don't. You know what it is? We've been doing this podcast for well over a year. We've literally covered almost everything. So it's so hard when there's overlapping things to remember exactly when we talked about it, because I'm pretty sure everything that we spoke about today we've talked about on one episode or another, Yeah. I don't want it to get repetitive, but I mean, there's only so much we could talk about. That's why we should do another off-topic one, man. That'll probably offset the pace a little bit here, huh?
Yeah, we can. You guys should throw in some requests. If you guys want us to talk about anything, even if it's not even related to fitness, and you want to do a podcast on this, if there's enough people that ask for it, we'll put it out there. I don't care. Yeah,
I'm not opposed to anything, man. We're here for you guys, and we want you guys to learn, and we want to make you guys laugh too. So should you do cardio first and then bulk up? A lot of people get under that same misconception. Again, you can't lose fat and build muscle at the same time. It's physically impossible. You can to a certain degree, but it's not going to be what you're thinking. You're not going to walk around, 15 pounds heavier and 15 pounds of more muscle, but 15 pounds lighter on the scale. That's just not going to happen. You can gain a little bit of muscle. I'm talking about like 1 to 3 pounds while dieting. And again, that's keeping in mind that your training is perfect, your diet is perfect. You will hold on to more muscle doing that, but I would recommend, if your goal is to get lean, just focus on getting lean. Mm-hmm. If your goal is to bulk up, then bulk up. If your body fat's for a man, over 15%, I would recommend dieting down to around 10 to 12, and then bulking back up till you get to that 15. For a woman, I would say if your body fat's around 25, I would diet down to around sub 20 and then bulk up again, staying at 20 though. I wouldn't recommend a woman being higher than 25. I think it's kind of high.
Yeah, you're always better off staying on the lean side because, like I said, you're going to be able to put more muscle on easier now because you don't have as much body fat in your frame. So going back to the insulin sensitivity, you're not going to actually store a lot of those calories as fat when you're leaner and you're more insulin sensitive. So staying leaner is always going to be more advantageous than being heavy when trying to bulk. So if you have to pick one or the other, get lean first, then bulk, you'll put muscle on and then you won't have fat that you need to burn off.
Yeah. So we won't have to regurgitate too much of that. You guys could just check the feed wherever you downloaded this from and look for that episode. We go in depth talking about that. All right, guys, so don't forget to share this episode with all your friends because I'm sure you know someone who thinks that they can actually turn fat into muscle or muscle into fat. So debunk that for them. You don't even have to, sell them on it. Just say, oh, listen, my friends, they have a podcast, and they actually talked about this. Give it a listen. It's episode number 169. Give it a listen. That's an easy way to share the episode so you don't sound spammy. A lot of people think, oh, I was telling someone about you guys, but I didn't want to sound too salesy. Don't worry about being salesy. We're just two normal guys, and we put out all this information for you. So just give them a relevant topic, and they'll listen, and then they'll get hooked on New York Muscle Radio, and they'll become an avid listener. Right, man? I can't believe we have a whole bunch of people who actually want to come out and meet us. Isn't that insane?
It is.
They're planning a meetup to come and meet us. We didn't have nothing to do with this. We've just been tagged in it on Instagram, and we're so grateful for it. It's really mind-blowing to think that, we come on here, I talk to Pete, and I kind of forget that there's thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who've listened to this. And, people are actually meeting up. They want to meet up with us. They want to, they're going to fly here. They're going to meet up with us. It's just insane. And we're so humbled by them. We can't thank you guys enough. So this is why the New York Muscle Radio community is strong. So that's why you have to share this. We have to grow this community to be one of the best in the fitness industry because we debunk all those bad things that are out there.
Yep, that's always the goal. Let's put out the good information, and hopefully it passes by all that fluff that's out there and all that misinformation that's flooding the fitness community. Hopefully we
misinformation and science jargon. I mean, who gives a fuck about all these rats?
Yeah, and straight up lies too. You got that as well.
and they sway science for the lies. Yeah. You ever see that?
Oh,
there's one study that supports something, and that's it. And that's what they go by.
It's very easy to convince people that something will work if they want to believe it's true. So if people are going to make money off of it, there's always ways to influence people. I'll buy this product. It will solve all your problems.
Yeah, exactly. Well, guys, head on over to newyorkmuscleradio.com/getjacked, JKKED, and pick up your free 12-week training program. Again, it's a free 12-week training program. Free, FREE. If it's free, it's for me, as the saying goes. Big guy, your turn.
All right, guys. Pete and Anthony, New York Muscle Radio, and we're out.
Enjoyed this episode of New York Muscle Radio? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, New York Muscle Radio.